Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Future-Proofing Your Cloud Data Management. If you're looking for the most innovative cloud data protection solution in the industry today, you're in the right place. We've got a great presentation and a live demo lined up for you today. This event is brought to you in partnership with Metallic and Microsoft. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started, there's just a few things that you should know about the event. My name is David Davis, and I'll be serving as the moderator. We want this to be educational, as we do with all of our events here at Actual Tech Media. So we encourage your questions there in the questions panel, and we'll be doing a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the webinar today to help solve your data protection challenges. So keep those questions coming. We also have our best question prize that I'll talk about here in just a moment to help encourage your questions. I want to also encourage you to check out the handouts tab. It's there that you can sign up for a demo of the Metallic data protection solution today on the very first link at the top. And there's also a data sheet below that on the Metallic and Azure data protection solution. Make sure that you check out those resources before you go. We'll be talking about that demo, and you'll see a live demonstration of this solution later in the presentation. We also have our Visa $300 gift card door prize that I'll be announcing the winner of at the end of the webinar today. If you're watching this on demand, of course, the drawing has already occurred. The prize terms can be found there in the handouts tab as well. Now, I mentioned our best question prize. That's for a Visa $50 gift card as well. And we'll be contacting the prize winner after the event. Winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize policy. And with that, I'm excited now to bring on our two expert presenters. Welcome, Mr. David No, CTO at Metallic, and Saurabh Sharma, Senior Program Manager for Azure Storage at Microsoft. David and Saurabh, it's great to have you on. I'll first hand it off to you, David. Take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. From around the world, we see people from all over the U.S. Hello from Dubai. Thank you for joining us later in your day. Really appreciate your time, and looking forward to presenting today. So I don't think I need to tell everyone that the usage of the cloud is exploding. Particularly over the last, say, 14, 18 months with the pandemic, I think we've all been forced to accelerate our cloud adoption plans, our strategies around transforming our businesses. And I say our because we are included in that as well. We've had to look at how we leverage cloud services in order to continue to do business with a distributed workforce. What's really interesting now is that companies are using this in order to move from kind of an emergency stance to a true transformation stance, and saying, look, we've been able to prove that moving to cloud and moving to cloud workloads and using SaaS applications is in fact viable, and not only helps us in this unique time, but also really lends itself to accelerating how we do business, how we transform how we do business as a group. And so, with that, I know that you've seen that too, Sarah, right? How can you characterize your experiences?
Yeah, thank you so much, David, for setting the context, and thank you everybody, joining from all over the globe. I know this has been a challenging time for everybody, and we really appreciate you taking the time and joining us on this webinar today. And true to David's point, I think we are seeing a lot of change and acceleration in various organizations across the globe, right? I mean, whenever it comes to remote work productivity or running workloads at scale, whether it's leveraging new SaaS applications that David was talking about, or even extending what customers have on premises into a more modernized, digitally transformed IT infrastructure that everybody can take advantage of. We are seeing these changes sweeping across various industries, and I think there are several tools that Microsoft has invested in whether it's remote productivity tools in the form of Teams, Office 365, or collaboration across Windows Server, Hyper-V. There are several infrastructure tools and extensibility options available for customers today to take advantage of some of the recent changes that are taking place, both in terms of modernization of IT infrastructure, but also more importantly, optimization. However, there are certain important things when it comes to data that customers still have to care about. And the reason that is the case is because data is truly what belongs to our customers and their organizations. And it is really them that control what happens with that data, where the data goes, how it is used, who accesses it, how it is managed. And that actually exposes certain challenges that companies face today. David and I will attempt at covering as to how Metallic and Microsoft together help customers solve. So talking about some of these challenges, obviously there is a huge explosion taking place at the intelligent edge, as we call it here at Microsoft, where all your endpoint devices, whether they are laptops, phones, terminals at various organization remote offices, everywhere there is an explosion in the amount of data. So there is a lot of data sprawl that is getting created. There are a lot of lot of employees, a lot of personnel, organization personnel that create new data, that copy new data, move that data around, do analysis on it. And then it becomes a problem where the IT admins have to suddenly deal with this huge explosion, and then they have to control that data and secure it from malicious attacks, including ransomware. They also need to control infrastructure costs because this data has to be kept somewhere where it can be managed more efficiently. But more importantly, from a compliance perspective, there are a lot of things that needs to happen in making sure that the data is stored in a compliant manner, that you don't expose yourself to a compliance risk, for example. And not to forget privacy. Very, very important from the perspective of who these users are, what are their identities, and storing those identities securely so that there is no exposure to data thefts or identity thefts. So those are some of the interesting challenges that companies still do face today. And David, I would love to hear your point of view on how Metallic looks at this, and what you've been seeing from your customers' perspective, and how Metallic solves some of these problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Saurabh. I think with that proliferation and explosion of services and cloud infrastructure, what's interesting here is that there is a proliferation of data silos as well. Adding a new service in many ways makes things easier on IT administrators and CIOs in terms of ease of deployment and flexibility and scalability. But that data is now outside of your data center. It's isolated from other management tools that you may have. And the challenge around managing that proliferation of data storage locations is a challenge, right? Or is really tough to address. And having a tool that can address those different data sources is of great importance and great value. In addition to that, what we see is not everyone is moving entirely to the cloud. I mean, obviously, many companies are getting rid of physical data centers and management on premises. But the reality is that what we see is that most customers are looking at a hybrid configuration for quite some time. Even if the goal in 5 years is to get rid of all physical data centers, there's still a transition period. How do you move that workload? How do you manage it from on-prem to the cloud? How do you manage that hybrid environment? And that includes not just Microsoft workloads, but things that can run on-prem and in the cloud, like SAP HANA, like Oracle, right? We have many customers who run those workloads both on premises and in the cloud, depending on any sort or any number of business requirements. On top of that, having an enterprise or any organization really has these legacy applications, older versions of apps that also have to be managed. And how do you do that from a single console without introducing even more complexity by having a number of point solutions to manage your data across these environments? That's really quite critical. Sarb, I know that Azure is looking at some of these things too. What's kind of the perspective there from you?
Yeah, David. So I think Azure as well, and I think you hit a great point there, which is the transformation to the cloud is not something which is like a binary thing that you're either on the cloud or off the cloud. It's a journey, as you pointed out, from on-premises, using a hybrid sort of a infrastructure environment, and then slowly sort of taking the modernization and refactoring and rehosting into the cloud. We are actually seeing that as well, and Azure is investing actively in technologies like Azure Arc that allows customers to basically attach, recognize their on-premises workloads and manage them from a single pane of glass. And I think what we are also seeing a lot from customers today is there is really a need for flexible single pane of glass remote management, right? And that is really the core of bringing all these hybrid towards hybrid infrastructure models, whether it's containers or VMs, all of that together on one single pane of glass that allows them to provision, manage, patch, update, all of that together. And Azure is actively investing in those technologies with technologies like Azure Arc, but also from the perspective of really technologies like Azure File Sync, for example, which allows you to take your data on-prem and extend that into the cloud. Various primary and secondary data scenarios which are being enabled by Azure today, along with support from various partners like Commvault, which allows us to basically extend some of these capabilities to the on-premises environments and ensure customers take advantage of those as well. So that's the one thing that we see a lot, which is how do you do this remotely and more efficiently has been a key customer question that we've been trying to sort of address. The second big one is security. Right? Whenever you have infrastructure distributed across various infrastructure models or various sites, if you will, the key question that comes up is how do I secure all of that consistently? How do I bring all of this together with policy-based management of my security posture? That is where technologies like Azure Security or Azure Security Center comes in, which brings things together again to a single pane of glass for customers to enforce policies and drive them down, measure compliance scores and security scores, and make sure that their environment across on-prem and cloud is secured. And the last one obviously is cost, because that is one of the key drivers of some of these modernization or optimization strategies, which is really to drive down the capital expenditure in acquiring or provisioning new hardware, refreshing hardware, but also bringing the agility to scale up and scale down based on organization scaling needs. And those are the sort of the key themes that we see on our side, and that's what we've been investing in.
Great. Yeah, thank you. And so, to those points, I think being able to address the changing environment, right, on-prem versus cloud, or some combination, whether you're using any tools from Azure in the cloud or using things at the edge like Arc or Azure Stack, right? Those are quite important. And having the flexibility to allow you to choose your workload and platform and where it runs is absolutely critical. Data protection is, of course, is required in those cases to ensure that you're compliant and have protection against, any number of failures, including security breaches, right? And so that's where SaaS really comes into play. If you look at how SaaS-based data protection addresses those things, it really gives you that rapid deployment capability, the flexibility to scale up when you need it, the ability to leverage capabilities within the platform without having to do a ton of planning and pre-work and buying infrastructure and spending a lot of cycles with that configuration. And that really gives you agility in your business, and it unlocks the potential of that digital transformation from on-prem and incorporating cloud elements into your overall IT strategy. Ransomware is a huge one, and I think, Sarb, you touched on that perfectly, right? Which is that backup in a cloud world with SaaS is something that is being viewed more and more through the lens of a security angle than necessarily like a protection against hardware failure or corruption, right? That's kind of the traditional data center threat that everyone's worried about with backup. My data center is going to catch on fire, my server is going to go down, I'm going to lose my storage. In the cloud, you don't have to worry about those things, but the threat of ransomware is a real one. The final defense, your last line of defense against ransomware, is being able to get your data back in the event of a breach. And that's where having a secure, air-gapped storage location or backup capability is critical, right? That's really incredibly important. That's why we're seeing SaaS data protection services, the interest in that accelerating as much as it has been. IDC projects data protection as a service will surpass traditional data protection in 2021 or 2022. The interesting thing about that statement is that prediction was made before the pandemic. And so I think it's only accelerated since then. And we're seeing a ton of interest now for those things. And so Metallic is Commvault's portfolio of SaaS-delivered cloud-native data protection solutions. It's a global service. We protect data around the world for our customers today with all of the data residency and compliance capabilities required for our customers to be able to adapt to the different regulations around the world. We have a full portfolio of support. It is not just protection for, say, O365 or only endpoints or only VMware or Hyper-V on-prem. We recognize that our customers have very diverse environments, and so our portfolio is designed to support our customers fully, right, end to end, on whatever they need to do. We've taken the technology that's been built by Commvault over the past 20 years. That's industry-leading technology recognized by analysts and customer reviews over the years, with a portfolio of over 900 active patents. We've combined that technology with the power of Azure, the security, the scalability, the availability of Azure around the world, and we have introduced Metallic, right? The portfolio here, you can see generally split into three main categories. You have hybrid cloud on the left side with Kubernetes and VM backup. We have database backup and file and object backup. We can talk about those a little bit more in detail in a bit. We also have SaaS app data protection, Salesforce, Office 365, as well as endpoints for end user data that lives on the edge. And so these are services that can be purchased independently or together. It is entirely up to you through any of our partners. These are all available through our partner network. So let's take a look at the architecture of Metallic, right? As I said, it is a cloud-native data protection service. We have the Metallic control plane, which runs in Azure around the world. And the interface for Metallic is called the Hub. I'll actually give you a little demo of this later. But what's interesting about backup as a service is that a SaaS data protection service is one of the few SaaS services that doesn't generate data, right? So we don't dictate to you where your data is. And so we have to be flexible in how we support protection of your data for the best performance with the best value. So for things like SaaS applications, Office 365 and Salesforce, as well as endpoints, those offerings include storage, unlimited storage with unlimited retention for O365, right? That is something where that's just part of the solution. You don't have to pay separately for it. It's all inclusive, no egress, right? That's provided as part of the service. Now, when we start looking at some of the hybrid workloads, like the VMs, the VM data protection, and things like on-premises data protection, what we heard from our customers is that they wanted the choice of bringing their own cloud storage, right? Say from Azure, based on their own subscriptions. And for on-premises workloads, since data has gravity, you want to have your primary copy of backups as close to the production workloads as possible. And that's to enable the fastest recovery that you can get. You don't want to be limited by your WAN bandwidth. And so as a service, we give you the capability not only to bring your own cloud storage if you'd like, or you can purchase that cloud storage from Metallic. You can also have a true backup copy on premises for scalability to be able to handle very large workloads on-prem with all the benefits of a SaaS service, and have that copy available for anything that might happen where you need rapid recovery, and then have a copy in the cloud also for that secure air-gapped copy, as well as long-term cost-effective retention. So with that, security is obviously a critical part of this, right? And that's where our multi-layered security approach that's based on zero trust comes into play. Building our service with that in mind allows us to have the highest level of security possible. We have SOC 2 and SOC 2 Type 2 and ISO 27001 2013 compliance reports available for our customers. We have encryption automatically enabled. We allow for single sign-on with multi-factor authentication integration into your identity provider with, say, Azure Active Directory or other SAML providers. That's all available for our customers and really provides a level of trust in the service that is critical when talking about manipulating your data, right? Your data is the key to your business, and ensuring that that's safeguarded is absolutely critical. These measures also give us an air gap against ransomware. Having a separate control plane managed by staff that is not part of your domain, having separate infrastructure, having storage that is secure in Azure with the encryption that we have ensures that ransomware can't make the leap from your environment to ours. And that way, the availability of your backups in the event that anything unfortunate should happen is in fact ensured. And building on top of the security capabilities and the compliance of the Azure data centers and infrastructure around the world is a critical part of this, right? Sarb, anything to add here?
I think, David, you covered that very, very nicely and accurately, as well as comprehensively. The only thing I want to add, though, is that the customer, all of you folks listening to this webinar, you are in full control of your data, whether it comes to encrypting the data in flight or at rest, managing and having control of the keys, being able to rotate those keys as you like based on your organizational policies is something that Metallic enables you to do very, very effectively and efficiently. More so, it builds on security foundations laid together as part of Microsoft Azure's well-architected framework. So, David talked about zero trust model for security as well as multi-factor authentication. But there is also a lot of infrastructure features that Metallic takes advantage of, from Azure, whether it is, the 3,500 cybersecurity experts, which essentially are monitoring threat signals, up to 1 trillion threat signals a day, and more than $1 billion worth of investment in the security domain within Microsoft Azure that enables that every single service that is hosted on Azure, including Metallic, stays secure, stays compliant, ensures that there are no security loopholes or compliance loopholes in terms of managing the data. The other thing, which is also something important that David talked about, is the virtual air gap or the air gapping or the separation of concerns. And this is really my favorite feature, as well as, we see a lot of customers, shared customers of Metallic and Microsoft love this feature a lot because this allows them to create a real separation between their account, their identity or their Active Directory, and their backups and their identity and their security against ransomware. So it's really two separate accounts, if you will, even though they are hosted on the same infrastructure, that allows you to keep control of your data and make sure that it is separated from ransomware and malicious attackers, including your own rogue admin scenarios that you might have in your organization. So I think that is the core of the solution. And the best part is, and as David will show in the demo, it's very easy to get started and get all of this with a few few clicks that gets you from how to wow in no time, because you really are getting access to the most secure infrastructure, the most secure environment that allows you to keep your data in a very secure, scalable, and compliant manner, and protect it from ransomware and rogue admins. So I think that's pretty much what I wanted to add to David's very eloquent description of how is it that Metallic leverages Azure security foundations and builds on it to create a multi-layered security approach and protect your backups from these kind of unintended scenarios. David, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Saurabh. And one thing to add, I really one thing I really love is that at one point, to illustrate the scale of the resilience of Azure, that there was a nation state level DDoS attack, terabit level attack on Azure, and I don't think anyone noticed. That is the scale of resilience that we enjoy being based in Azure for sure. So let's take a look at the breadth of the solutions a little bit here, right? When we cover the portfolio, we can dive a little bit deeper into what each offering entails and what we offer. So let's look at O365 first. I think that one of the most important things to keep in mind about O365 is that it is a group of services. It's not just one service. And this is a theme that you'll find in common with all of our solutions, is that the protection that we offer is comprehensive. We don't just protect email, for instance. We don't just protect SharePoint or only OneDrive. We protect the breadth of services. So with this, you can protect all of your data. O365, we can protect Exchange, Teams, OneDrive, and SharePoint to make sure that all of your critical data is protected. So not only do we protect all of your data, we protect it in a very granular form. So across all of these services, we allow granular recovery of things like emails and contacts and calendar items, individual files in OneDrive, individual wikis and document libraries in SharePoint. And Teams actually is one of the most interesting things, applications as well, right? We see that certainly exploding in terms of utilization. Right, and when we look at Teams and what our capabilities there are, it's quite critical to make sure that all of those elements are protected well, right? And so we've seen Teams explode in popularity. We use it every day. I use it every single day. All of our meetings are in Teams, and it's quite critical. And we're seeing that more and more. The shift is actually going from email and file protection to Teams. And that is causing our customers to really look at protecting this critical information and being able to bring back in a granular way things like not just Teams, but channels back in place, group chats. We can protect individual chats, bring back the files, all of the elements in Teams that are critical to customers' day-to-day operations. Sarb, any comment here?
So David, just to add to what you mentioned, I think a lot of our customers tend to look at point solutions when it comes to Office 365, and I think you mentioned that, David, which is it's a combination of multiple solutions, and what you really need is one solution that integrates very, very quickly and very efficiently with the rest of your data protection posture, whether it's hybrid environment, endpoints. Bringing it all together with a single policy is key over here. So I want to just stress on the fact that Metallic integrates with the latest Office 365, M365 APIs. Make sure that every single artifact of all these workloads across OneDrive, SharePoint, Exchange, Teams is protected for granular recovery. And in fact, we've had situations where our customers have ran into situations where there was perhaps an accidental deletion of a set of conversations, and Metallic has helped to bring all of that back in the right shape and right form and have that integrated so that customers can continue with their business without any disruption. That's one important point that I wanted to bring up. The other important point is there are a lot of solutions that are available today which might cover one or more of these offerings from M365, but Metallic really does a great job of bringing it all together under a single solution. So you just have to basically install Metallic and you're done. You're basically protecting your M365 environment very, very comprehensively with the power of Metallic and Azure. So whether it is Teams, Exchange Online, OneDrive, if you're looking for a single solution, which is obviously going to ease your data protection posture, Metallic is the solution for you.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate that. So if we look at our next offer, let's take a look at some of the hybrid offerings, right, beyond SaaS data protection. We have VM and Kubernetes protection. Obviously, this is the cornerstone of a lot of what our customers do. And what this offers is the capability to protect workloads not only on premises, but also in the cloud. So if you're looking at VMs on-prem, if you're moving from, say, a VMware environment, going to Azure, we can protect all of that from a single pane of glass. We have full coverage for conversion as well. So if you want to back up on-prem and restore to Azure VMs, we can convert VMware VMs on the fly to Azure VMs for recovery off-prem in the case of something happening in your local data center. We also support VMware in the cloud with Azure with the Azure VMware solution. This is something that gives you the flexibility of choosing the platform that best suits your needs at different points in time in your cloud journey. On top of that, we also have support for advanced virtualization and containerization solutions in the form of Kubernetes. So what's great about Kubernetes is that you can protect any CNCF certified distribution of Kubernetes on-prem as well as cloud deployments of Kubernetes like AKS, right? So the same solution protects not only persistent volumes, the data there, but protects your apps end to end. Your apps, your metadata, all of that is also protected instead of simply protecting the persistent data storage solution, persistent data storage areas. Right. We also allow you to then make that app portable. You can restore that out of place. You can move workloads between Kubernetes clouds. We can go into virtual sandboxes and really enable you to leverage the power of containers as you transform how you leverage VMs and compute in your business. Sarah, what have you seen in the Kubernetes area as well?
So Dave, before I go there, I would have to say this is, I love this because what is happening a lot is, we're seeing customers take advantage of a lot of AI and machine learning use cases. Take advantage of services in Azure, for example, the Azure machine learning service or the cognitive services. And really the recommended way to deploy those services is to containerize them. And so that's something that we're seeing a lot. So a lot of customers are using Azure Kubernetes Service, AKS, to take advantage of some of these AI and machine learning capabilities. And Kubernetes is sort of becoming the cornerstone of the deployment model for AI and machine learning. So this is something to take notice of. But then what customers tend to sometimes forget or not appreciate is there is a lot of stateful data, to your point, David, which is associated with these Kubernetes instances. And when we talk about agility, when we talk about bringing the power of the cloud to the edge, it's really possible through an agile development using the Kubernetes infrastructure environment or infrastructure hosting model, which allows that agility to move from on-premises to the cloud, take advantage of AI capabilities of the cloud, and then bring them back to on-premises so that workloads and infrastructure on-premises can take advantage of those capabilities. So I think this is where true data protection, scalable across on-prem and cloud, is really needed, because Kubernetes do carry that state across these different environments, and protecting that state is a very, very important customer requirement, and especially useful in situations where you have, let's say, developed a model which you are deploying, let's say, for an autonomous driving use case, for example, where you would need to essentially store that model, retain it for long-term retention from a compliance perspective, but also be able to go back point in time when you're doing your DevOps, your testing, your POCs, as well as making sure that your use case is buttoned up end to end. And that is what Metallic offers. And I think David hit the point on its head when he said that, ability to protect VMware environments and making them agile to be able to recover in Azure unlocks the value of Azure as a very, very cost-effective DR site for your workloads, especially useful and true in the case of stateful workloads like VMs and Kubernetes. But again, the ease with which a customer can do that with Metallic is just unprecedented. So just wanted to add that, David. I think you covered the rest of it really, really well. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Sarah. Appreciate the comments there as well. So one great thing about VM Kubernetes that we want to encourage is the adoption of new technologies. And so right now, with any purchase of our VM and Kubernetes backup services, our customers will receive free of charge unlimited Kubernetes backup for the lifetime of their subscription. So we sell these VM backup services in 10 packs of VMs. Buy one 10-pack of VMs and you can back up unlimited Kubernetes apps and containers for as long as you're a Metallic customer. It's a great offer. I encourage you to definitely leverage that. So moving on to kind of what's really the bread and butter of a lot of customers' data, we're looking at file and object backup, right? And file backup is one of those things that is kind of table stakes, right? And so, but what we do support is all operating systems, right? Windows, Linux, Unix, on-prem and in the cloud, and we can back that up to Azure seamlessly and easily with granular recovery, right, across all of these operating systems, including older versions of those operating systems. But what's particularly interesting about this is it also covers storage locations for new app development paradigms. And when I talk about those new storage locations, a couple of those examples are Azure Blob Storage and Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. Right? These are things which are being leveraged by customers every day for extremely critical data, particularly in the case of ADLS. And Metallic is the only solution that can protect your analytics data in Azure Data Lake Storage today. It is one of the most critical pieces of customer data that is often overlooked in terms of data protection. So no matter whether the files are on premises on a physical system, or whether in a VM or a VM in the cloud, or whether it's an advanced kind of file storage capability, Metallic has you covered. And lastly, database backup, of course. We look at compute, we look at file, and then databases obviously is quite important, right, in a hybrid environment. And so hybrid environments include databases that I mentioned before, not just the ones from Microsoft, obviously SQL Server is supported, but also things like Oracle and SAP HANA, which run on-prem and in the cloud quite frequently. They're quite prevalent workloads in Azure across all of our customer base, small to large. These data sources and these databases are there. On top of this capability, we also have recently added Active Directory support. And this is an interesting one, right? Why would you back up Active Directory here? It's back to the security discussion that we had earlier. Active Directory is the keys to the kingdom. The first thing you have to do when getting your environment or when recovering from some sort of disaster or breach is to get your identity management back up and running. And Active Directory here allows you to restore individual objects as well as attributes of those objects, and be able to make sure that you bring your AD back to a point that you know is good. And this is also an integral part to deployments around, say, that follow Microsoft's Red Forest deployment recommendations, to have a backup capability that is separated from the rest of your security domain, right? This ensures that that data is preserved in a separate domain that cannot be affected by anyone in your organization. Okay. Anything you'd add on how this maps to customer needs that you see, Saurabh?
Well, David, I wanted to add a lot, but you stole my analogy. I was going to say that SAP HANA, Oracle, SQL Server, these are all crown jewels, right? As you were pointing out, in a customer's environment, because they run the most mission critical workloads, pretty much, that keeps the line of businesses running. And Active Directory is really the keys to a safe which houses all these crown jewels. So to your point, a lot of customers look at protecting these critical workloads, but they tend to forget or tend to ignore the value of Active Directory and Active Directory protection in the context of protecting these workloads as well. So again, just sort of reinforcing David's point on the importance of protecting Active Directory and how seamlessly Metallic is able to do that. but also I don't want to ignore the performance and efficiency that Metallic brings to SAP HANA, Oracle, and SQL Server. I've actually tried this out myself, and I love the way Metallic is able to not only discover HANA bases but protect them, leveraging native backend technologies, whether it comes to SAP HANA or the 9 or 10 different ways of doing differential backups with Oracle. Metallic's got you covered. And when it comes to RPO and RTO, again, because it is hosted on performant blob storage, which gives multiple tiers of performance across premium and standard, we are able to together orchestrate very, very quick backups as well as recoveries, whether they are full or granular across all these workloads. And that really gives administrators the flexibility and the confidence that whenever things are not going according to plan, Metallic and Azure have got their back. So I think that's the only thing I wanted to add, and this is really one of the core capabilities that brings the awesomeness of Azure and together across so many different kinds of workloads. We looked at M365, unstructured data, databases. I mean, it's everything. It's the works. So thank you so much, David, for covering all of this so beautifully, across the various portfolio of workloads that Metallic protects today.
Thank you, Sarah. And so let's just go through the last few here. I know we're starting to run a little bit short on time, and we want to make sure that we have time for Q&A. So if we look at some of the flexibility, right, one thing I'd like to talk about in particular is the storage flexibility. This is quite critical. I talked about this a little bit in the architecture slide, but this is really unique, right, for Metallic, in that the fact that we can handle a wide variety of data sources, not just in the cloud, but also on premises, is critical. And having the capability to have the option to have local storage to handle the on-premises workloads, that's something that we give you for free. We don't charge for that functionality. You can use your own infrastructure. We even have an appliance that you can use here for scale-out storage on premises. But really what we do is we support the three main models, right, for our hybrid cloud environments. The first is you can back up directly to cloud. That's no problem. You don't have to have anything additional on premises. You can use your existing on-premises storage if you want to. If you have storage you'd like to repurpose, that's perfectly fine. We will support any network-based or block-based storage that you have. And then finally, what's kind of the magic combination is that we will support having an on-premises copy for rapid recovery and a cloud second copy for longer-term retention, as well as ransomware resilience and recovery capability. And that allows you to follow things like the 3-2-1 rule for backups to have those secure copies of your backup data. Okay, so in terms of how we extend Metallic to cover even current Commvault customers, we have the Metallic Cloud Storage Service. This is a unique capability as well, where we can provide a managed cloud storage location for our customers, which is highly secure. It's resilient not only to ransomware attack with a virtual air gap, but it's also resilient to even internal malicious actors, right? Or malicious insider, which is kind of the bane of every administrator's existence, right? It's very, very difficult to defend against a malicious insider. The security keys for the storage are securely exchanged with Commvault software on premises. You never get those security keys, so you can't access the storage directly. You can access it, of course, through the Commvault software, but that is very carefully controlled. So this is a great option for our customers looking for cloud storage, which is not only easy to use and easy to configure, but also highly resilient to breaches and as well as attacks, both external and internal, and allows you to control cost because we don't charge any egress fees for this storage. And so the cloud cost is extremely predictable. Okay. And then finally, if we look at how Microsoft and Commvault work together over the years and how we continue to innovate and deliver to our customers, Metallic is part of the Commvault portfolio. And all of the software and all of these offerings, since they are based on the same technology, all work together. You can leverage the power of the portfolio here to cover any deployment scenario or any management scenario that you have. And we've been continually recognized as a leader for data protection as well. Right? Gartner's had Commvault as a leader in the back of a recovery magic quadrant. Every single year it's been published. So we have a fabulous track record from that regard, and combined with the power of Azure and Microsoft technology, we're able to bring to market a leading SaaS solution in the form of Metallic. And it's not just Commvault that's behind this. As I mentioned, it's the strength of that partnership, right? Sarah, can you comment on that?
Oh yes, absolutely. I was waiting to jump in, David. Thank you so much. And I think the core of the partnership lies in the history that we've had together as two companies working very closely towards shared objectives of protecting and managing customer data. One of the key things I want to call out is the fact that Metallic is built on some of the latest and greatest Azure PaaS and SaaS services, and that is to deliver some very secure, high performant, scalable data protection to our customers that just is turnkey. It's just click and you're ready to go. And that is, I think, that at the core of this partnership, which is really sort of developing and extending our roadmap jointly to our shared set of customers. Another example of that, and again, one of the core things that Metallic is built on is Azure Blob storage, which again is known for its durability, its security, and scalability. And Metallic has been integrating at a very, very fast pace with whatever changes, improvements are being built on Azure Blob storage, whether it's immutability, whether it's security controls, soft delete, whether it's tiering or lifecycle management. It is all leveraged by Metallic today, and that's how we are together able to do something very unique for our customers. And that's what allows us to build this world-class SaaS data protection platform for, more importantly, hybrid workloads, cloud native workloads, but also SaaS workloads. So David, just wanted to sort of reinforce what you mentioned. This wouldn't have been possible without the close partnership between Commvault and Microsoft.
Great. No, thank you very much. And so we're very fortunate to have been recognized by the industry as a leader. And in the time that Metallic has been available, we've gotten a lot of great accolades. But what's even better or more important to me is the feedback that we get from our customers, right? Getting the validation that we're providing great value to them, as well as reducing TCO and management overhead and giving them peace of mind is really critical. And these are things that we're delivering to our customers today across all of the workloads that they have. And that's really the most important thing to us. So let's take a quick look at product, right? Let's take a look and see what Metallic actually looks like. I'll share that. So
I'm excited about this. I'm definitely excited about this.
Thanks. So this is what we call the hub. This is the central management location. You can see that it is designed to provide the best user experience possible. It gives you visibility into information that you need day to day, right front and center. And then at the bottom, it gives you common access to things like user management, documentation, and case management. This is designed to make guidance in the product available to bring that 20 plus years of Commvault experience right at your fingertips to guide you through what the best methodologies, what the best data deployment patterns look like, right? We give you the flexibility to do what you need to do. At the same time, we guide you through best practices that we've built over the years. You can see the Office 365 tab here. This is something where, for each one of those offers, you can customize the display to show only the offers that are important to you. Right. So as we look at something like Office 365, what kind of granular recovery capabilities can we have? So if you look at Teams, right, this is the one we talked about before. It's critical to users. It's a very simple and straightforward interface. Here are some teams that we've protected. It gives you some status around what's happening with the teams, and you can easily pick a recovery point and browse to do a restore. So if I wanted to go and see, say, the different channels within the team, I see we are excited with the party planning committee here, but you can go into each one of these and restore individual files, right? You can go into here and say files or wiki pages. You can restore the entire team, an entire channel, only a tab, the content within that tab, and we'll automatically repopulate that in place, out of place, or you can even download this data locally via to your computer. That's all available to you. So that granular level of recovery capability, right? Most recoveries are not a very large amount of data. It's usually very selective bits of data that need to come back. We give you that capability for 95% of your restores. For that last 5% where you need to restore, say, an entire team, we give you that capability as well. So that's the type of flexibility that you'll find common across all of our workloads. So if we look at what's coming next, I mean, as part of SaaS, we are committed to very, very rapid innovation. We've just introduced Active Directory in the past month or so, and we're adding Active Directory, Azure Active Directory protection as well. So the same kind of granular capabilities that you can see in our AD support today, you will see with Azure AD very soon. And then with Metallic Cloud Storage, we're also adding new storage tiers. So you'll be able to select between different tiers of storage to match the patterns of your workloads, as well as your retention versus cost requirements. Okay. So that's coming. That's only a small bit of what we're planning together. Saurabh, anything you'd like to add here?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would say, David, is there are a lot of solutions out there today. With the rich ecosystem of partners that are there, which say that you can always use a turnkey pay-as-you-go model for protecting your data. But I think the approach that Commvault and Microsoft uniquely offer is to not only stop at a pay-as-you-go kind of a data protection solution, but use what you need kind of a data protection solution. So whether it is the ability to protect your on-premises data right next to where it resides in local storage on-prem with Metallic, or the ability to actually protect SaaS applications, just like the demo that David just showed, and have that kind of granular recovery, or for that matter, the addition of storage tiers for flexibility to customers in terms of choosing how they would like to keep their data for the long term, are some of the core examples of this philosophy and this approach. And I think I would just urge the customers and organizations on this webinar today to think about what is it that you need when it comes to data protection to unlock some of those core remote management, centralized data management scenarios. And the chances are very high that you'll have that need covered with Metallic and Microsoft Azure. So I think those was some of the closing thoughts that I had to what has been, I think, David, it was an amazing demo, and I think it just shows the power of Metallic and Azure together in protecting teams, in protecting so many different workloads across our customer environments. All right, awesome. Looks like we are up for Q&A. So please keep those questions coming, and we'll take them as they come and address as much as possible on the Q&A.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Absolutely. Great presentation. Love seeing the live demo. So much information, so much excitement around this product. We've got a lot of questions coming in from the audience. I encourage everyone to check out the link right there on the screen to metallic.io to sign up for the demo. That link is also at the top of the handouts tab, because we're going to move on to the poll question that you see there on the screen now. The question is, what additional information would you like about the Metallic offerings? And we'll leave that up while we take your questions. So the first question that came in here, Deepak is asking how the Metallic infrastructure is securing data of customers working across the globe with no extra maintenance costs from customers.
Yeah, great question. Thank you, Deepak. So Metallic, as I mentioned earlier, is a globally available service. We have presence around the world and allow you to select the data center location, the storage location that you want, or the region that you want to meet your compliance requirements. So that's available to all of our customers. We have many customers who have data in the US and Canada, in Europe, in Asia, in Australia, and New Zealand. And those regions, and I'm speaking broadly of those regions, right? With things like our GDPR compliance, we can satisfy those needs for our customers, and that comes at no additional cost. Once you're a subscriber, you're able to deploy data protection in those regions at your leisure. That's part of what Azure, being based in Azure, allows us to do.
Excellent. And then next question comes from Rick, who's asking, how quickly is the restore of Exchange Online mailboxes, and what downtime could be expected?
So I don't know about, I'm not sure about downtime. I mean, that's what Office 365 guarantees you, right? That service, that team does a fantastic job of and guaranteeing service availability. What we do, being based in Azure, is we're able to leverage, right, the internal Microsoft networks, so the data doesn't ever leave a Microsoft network, even though the O365 and Azure infrastructure is different. We provide the fastest recovery capability that we can, based on those parameters. We also are leveraging all the APIs that Microsoft provides, working closely with the different dev teams, as well as the capability to do multi-streaming. So we're not just limited by the throughput of a single stream for backup or restore. We actually guide you at configuration time based on the size of your deployment on how many streams to configure.
Excellent. And I think you may have just answered this one, but maybe you want to elaborate a little bit. They're saying if the Microsoft 365 is running on Microsoft Cloud and Metallic is on the same cloud, how is the data resilient?
Yeah, that is a question we get all the time. It's a really good one. So I did touch on this a bit, in that the Azure and O365 infrastructure is different. It's different data centers and different infrastructure on the back end. And so even though they're both from Microsoft, they're different clouds, right? And so having the data protected in Azure with Metallic, with our resilient architecture, so we have an SLA of service availability that's not dependent on anything on our infrastructure underneath us, right? We are deployed in multiple regions, even within the same geographic area. Like in the U.S., we're deployed in multiple regions. Same thing with Canada. Data is replicated between them for resilience, and we leverage a lot of the capabilities that Azure gives us in order to architect a solution that is highly available. Sarb, would you like to add any thoughts?
Yeah, David, I think you covered it really, really well. I think the main thing that customers need to consider is, let's go back to the classical thinking of 3-2-1, right? You really need that one offsite. And as David pointed out, the Azure infrastructure and M365 infrastructure is different. They are separated both in terms of the kind of data centers, but also in terms of the fault domains that exist. So if M365 were to go down, Azure, and I would love to say that Azure would never go down, but that is never the case. And that's where the offsite that David was talking about, the geo redundancy, comes in that case. So with Metallic and Azure, you have the option of keeping your data in another region altogether to protect from these kind of eventualities. If there is a region disaster or a region failure, you still have that copy available for you to recover very quickly using the Microsoft networks that David talked about, using, again, the core Azure infrastructure that makes these recovery possible in a very, very fast manner. That's number one. Number two, when it comes to Microsoft 365 data, I think there are some of the core fundamental capabilities that M365 already provides. So whether it's the recycle bin, the ability to go back point in time, what Metallic and Azure together allow you to do is to extend those capabilities significantly from the perspective of long-term retention and compliance, and then keeping that data in a separate fault domain altogether, in a separate region in Azure on the Metallic service. And that's sort of the core differentiation that this solution has together with M365 and Azure. It allows you to take advantage of that resilient data infrastructure that Azure Blob storage offers through Metallic, but also at the same time build on the data protection capabilities and extend the capabilities that are provided at a foundational level from M365. So yes, again, going back to that question, there are two different clouds, M365 and Azure. Metallic gives you that offsite copy in Azure in a different region. allows you to get that 3-to-1 securely for your M365 data.
Excellent. Excellent. And I know we're running out of time here. Maybe time for just one more question. Before I ask that, I want to remind everyone, don't forget about the poll that's there on the screen. We do appreciate your feedback. Next question here. What anti-ransomware features does Metallic offer?
Oh, that's a very good question. So I think there are two ways to look at this, right? One is how is Metallic protected from ransomware attack? And then how do we help our customers determine that there might be a ransomware attack, right? And those are kind of the two aspects to that. The first, I think we talked about a bit, which is the multi-layer security model that we've built with Metallic, or that Metallic is built on. That includes, the virtual air gap to customer environments, the separate security domain, the deployment that we have, the multi-region deployment, as well, all of the controls that we have in place to ensure that the infrastructure is well protected, and the measures that are detailed in our SOC 2 Type 2 and ISO 27001 reports all speak to that. And so if you look at the second part, though, which is how do we help our customers determine there might be a ransomware attack, Metallic incorporates functionality such as anomaly detection based on machine learning to understand the patterns of change rates for our customers' data. And if the change rate is unusual, we can then alert customers to that anomalous activity to help them investigate. This has actually helped a few of our customers detect ransomware attacks very early, which is the key, and allow them to mitigate those attacks before they became widespread and challenging overall.
Very
And
nice.
David, I would just add that it's very hard for ransomware to actually hit the Metallic backups because it's all air gapped and protected. And that's something that David mentioned earlier, which is very difficult for ransomware to get to that secure set of backups on the Metallic storage, which is built on Azure. The other thing, again, is the Active Directory protection, which allows you to restore not only your data, but the identities, and make sure that you're back up and running after having protected your environment and cleaned your environment off of ransomware attacks or malicious attackers that might take place. So that way your backups always remain secure. You're always confident that you can go back point in time, recover not only your data but also your identity infrastructure very, very securely.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I know we're running out of time here in our webinar slot, but this has been really great. I've learned a lot. I know the audience has as well. David and Sharo, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot,
everyone.
David.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thanks, David.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, everyone in the audience, for joining. Thank you for all the excellent questions. I'm afraid we ran out of time to respond to these here in the live event. We'll do our best to get back to those after the webinar. I do want to announce the winner of our Visa $300 gift card. This is going to Joshua Toll from Kansas. Congratulations, Joshua Toll from Kansas. We'll reach out to you. We'll also be reaching out to our best question prize winner as well. And then, of course, don't forget to check out metallic.io to sign up for a demo of the Metallic data protection solution that you learned about on the webinar today. Thanks again for joining, and have a great day. Bye-bye.